Welcome to my series on the lab walkthroughs. This most current one is going to go over the MOAC Configuring Advanced Windows Server 2012 R2 Services in preparation for exam 70-412. Before we can actually get in the lab manual though, we actually have to go through the lab setup and get all the virtual machines set up. Now if you're going through the MOAC, you don't have to worry about any of this. My other videos that go into these other chapters will help you with the different components of the MOAC labs, but this particular video you will not need. This is only if you want to set up the virtual machines on your computer so you can do them at home or on your device. Alright, so we're going to get started. This is the lab setup guide that was provided by the publisher. So we scroll through. You see that we need 1, 2, 3 servers plus a storage. All servers will have 2 network adapters. The lab is going to use the Active Directory Domain Services domain name, contoso.com, the fully qualified domain name, fqdnrwdco1.contoso.com. And then what we need is here, these hardware requirements, this is only if you are installing them on a live machine. When I run these labs, I do them all on one machine. So for example, I'll have my machine and it'll have each of these servers, and each student will have their own set of servers. This is for the entire machine. This is not for the individual virtual machine. If you do not have 16 gig of RAM, you're going to have a real hard time running between 3 to 4 machines. I have found that 16 gig is about the sweet spot for most of these labs. The 2 network interface adapters you don't necessarily need because you can create a second one virtually. One's going to be internal, one's going to be the external. I also do recommend having 2 displays when doing these. So you have your keyboard, your mouse, your sound card. Not so much, although it usually helps. Again, speakers, you don't really use these within the labs. And then obviously your internet connection, which you need to have some sort of network connection. Alright, software requirements. You do need to have Microsoft Windows Server 2012 R2 standard installation. You can get an evaluation edition available as a free download from the Microsoft's TechNet website, as well as the Windows Identity Foundation SDK 4.0, which can be downloaded from Microsoft's Download Center website. Alright, so if we go to the next component, now it goes through the student computer requirements, again talking about the same thing. You see the different machines that we're going to need to set up. Again, the hardware requirements. Alright, I'll scroll down to where we have to install Hyper-V. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize this. I already have Hyper-V on my machine, and I've created a shortcut for it. If you don't already have Hyper-V, if you're not sure, you want to go here, so right click, and I'm on Windows 8.1, Programs and Features, turn Windows Features on or off, and you'll see I have Hyper-V, and I went ahead and I checked it. If you expand it, and then expand it again. If you do not see Hyper-V here, not all Windows operating systems comes with Hyper-V as a feature. So if you only have Windows 8 and it's not Pro, or if you just have Windows 10, again, it's not Pro, you may not have Hyper-V, in which case you're going to need to use another virtual architecture, whether that's VirtualBox or VMware. You're going to need one of those in order to do these labs. Now, if you do have, you're going to want to head and check all these. If you're not able to check them, or if you check them and then you install them and it reboots and you still can't get your virtual machine to work, what you're going to need to do is go into your BIOS and allow for virtualization. There's a lot of YouTube videos you can go to see how to do that. So right now I have Hyper-V already installed. And again, once you do install it, you're going to need to reboot your computer. So I'm going to click on OK. And I'm going to go ahead and unpin this. I want to show you how to pin it to your taskbar. So if you right-click, search, Hyper-V, there's my Hyper-V manager. I'm going to right-click and simply pin to my taskbar. I do that because I end up using it a lot. Close my thing. And now I'll go ahead and open up my Hyper-V. You'll see I have my Hyper-V manager. And we have a couple things over here, Hyper-V settings, and we're going to get into this. And virtual switch manager, and we're going to get into this as well. So before we get started, we need to do some things for housekeeping first before we can even load the machine. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on our Explorer, go to our C drive, and I'm going to do a new folder, and we're just going to call this VMs for virtual machines, and then enter. And now I'll go ahead and close this. Now I want to go into my Hyper-V settings and assign that folder. So I'm going to go here. So it sees my VMs folder. And I'm going to do the same thing with virtual machines. And then assign that. And everything else is okay. I'll go ahead and click on OK. So what's going to happen is anytime we go to create a new machine or save a checkpoint, anything like that, it's all going to store in this one place. Okay, I'll click on OK. Now we're going to create two switches. So we're going to click on Virtual Switch Manager. And let's create the internal one first. Create Virtual Switch. Be careful about your naming. I had students name them all kinds of funky names, but when you go to start using them, you sometimes forget which one was internal, which one is external. Just keep it simple. INT switch. And then OK. And then we're going to do another switch, Virtual Switch Manager, external, create virtual switch, again, EXT switch, keeping it nice and simple. And it's already set as external network on my wireless. Now, if you change locations, and you may have to use your wired, make sure this you can always change even if you're in the middle of a lab. For right now, everything I do is wireless, except when I'm in the classroom, I have to stay wired for that because of the demand on the system. So I'm going to just keep it as wireless for now, but just know that you can always change it. And then we're going to go ahead and click on OK. And then yes. So now we have our switches. Okay, so I'm going to minimize this for just a minute. Open up my Chrome. So again, if you don't have Hyper-V, you have VMware. There's the site for it. There's VirtualBox. And then if you want to download the Windows Identity Foundation SDK, it's right here. And I will go ahead and click on download. And then next. That's downloading. And then if you don't have access to Microsoft Imagine, if you're taking this in school, chances are if you ask for Microsoft Imagine access or you're taking this course, they will give you access so you can download your own version of Windows Server 2012. Or you can go to Microsoft.com Evaluation Center. I just did a search and I was able to find this pretty easy. And you have to register in order to get this download, which is good for 180 days. Alright, let's see, show folder, Control C. So I'm going to minimize this. And I have a folder already set up, or I'm basically putting everything. Control V. And then close out of that. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and set up our first machine. So we're going to right click, New, Virtual Machine. And this is going to be RWDCO1. Next, next. And it's going to be 2048 here. Use dynamic memory. And then next. And we're going to go ahead and connect all the machines at first to the internal switch. And then next. This one is going to be 70. And then next, install an operating system from the ISO. Browse. I have it on my desktop. There's my ISO. Open. Next. And finish. Now all we've done is we've attached the ISO. We have not installed anything yet. We've basically set up our hardware parameters. Now we have to install the actual operating system. For that we're going to double click on our green button to turn it on. And then here we're going to click on next. Install now. And I'm going to pause while I put this code in. Okay, now this is important. You do not want the server core. Otherwise, all you're going to have is a command line interface. We want the server GUI. So we're going to choose server with GUI. And then next. And then we're going to accept. And then next. Custom install. Enter. And then we're going to click on next. So while this installs, I'm going to go ahead and pause. But you're going to install server 1 and server 2 the same exact way. So once I get this one installed, I'll go ahead and do server 1, and I'll go ahead and do server 2. And then I'll go ahead and resume the recording. Okay, so the RWDC has installed. Now we're going to set up the administrator. And we're going to use the same password throughout everything that we're going to do. Even though that's not safe in the real world, for our purposes, it keeps it simple. So that's the password we're going to be using throughout all of the labs. And then finish. Now we'll go ahead and log in. And what you're going to do is just click on this icon in the upper left hand corner. That's like hitting Control-Alt-Delete. Put in your password. Okay, so here is our RWDC01 and we are in the Server Manager dashboard. So let's just go back to the lab setup instructions. So it wants us to assign an IP address of 192.168.1.50 and a preferred DNS of 192.168.1.50. So let's go ahead and get that set up first. So we're going to click on Local Server on the left-hand side. And we're going to go into time zone first and set this to whatever time zone you're in. I have to be on Eastern. And then OK. And then OK. Now we're going to go into our Ethernet. This is our port that we set up. I'm sorry, not our port, our switch. Right now it sees the the internal switch, so we're going to set that up. So I'm going to left click, right click, properties. Okay, we're going to go to IPv4, click on properties, use the following IP address, 192.168.1.50, click on tab, and now we're going to go down to the preferred DNS, and this is going to be the preferred DNS. So 192.168.1.50, and then OK, and then close. And now we can close out of this. So now that we've set that up, we actually have to set up one more with that. And I have forgotten that happens. So we're going to go back to this, left click, right click, properties, IPv4, properties, and then we're going to go into advanced. And we're going to do an add 192.168.1.55 tab, and then add, and then OK, and then OK, and then close, and then close. Okay, now we're going to name our machine. So we're going to click on here where it says computer name. Now, a lot of students want to put the name right here, but this is only the description. This is not going to change the computer name. So we're going to go ahead and click on change, and then type in RWDC01, and then OK, and it's going to go ahead and tell us to reboot, and we're going to go ahead and reboot.
Okay. I don't know.
Okay, so while my RWDC01 is rebooting, I'm going to go ahead and end this video here, and then part 2 is going to pick up on the next component, which is to add the DNS and the DHCP.